And as we get into this further, this next section over here, when we talk about Bernie and the whole situation, the way he handled Biden, it's just that the fact that there's what Mr. Leahy would call a shit line. And you don't, there's a certain time when it's going over the freaking line when you're going to make yourself look hypocritical. You can't take out the corruption calendar and say it starts right here. That's what we're talking about, the impeachment. And by the way, tomorrow we will be talking with Kevin Zeese. But the whole fact is that corruption is corruption. And you're going to make yourself look hypocritical if you only call out Donald Trump for his corruption and then you excuse other forms of corruption. So right here in this next section, we're going to talk about Bernie apologized to Biden for a surrogate, Zephyr Teachout's opinion piece calling him corrupt. And inside this article, this was The Guardian, fam, and once I read this, I told you, fam, I said, fam, this was lightweight. This was very sensitive. This was very soft. This was just saying that the money that Joe Biden takes, and Bernie Sanders told the crowd that Biden took money from 41 billionaires. Okay, so you know who he's taking money from. This article here really isn't not even that harsh compared to some of the articles that I read when it comes to talking about Joe Biden.
Right. Yeah, and let's I'm going to read a little bit, but I just want to, Joe Biden calls himself middle-class Joe, and we know off the bat he voted for... He voted for the crime bill.
Yep.
He has voted for the war in Iraq, the bankruptcy bill. Let's kind of go over to what Zephyr Teachout wrote, because what she wrote, she's a lawyer. So what she wrote is actually factual. It's data. It's not like she said Joe Biden is full of malarkey and Joe Biden is corn pop and Joe Biden's hair stands up. No, she didn't say any of that. She focused on policy differences. That's why I and so many of you were so angry at Bernie or the campaign for this. So let's read. She says, first, Biden's support for finance over working class Americans. His career was bankrolled by the credit card industry.
Yes, it was.
He delivered for it by spearheading a bankruptcy bill that made it harder for Americans to reduce their debts and helped cause the financial crisis, which also, by the way, didn't let student loans be eliminated when you file for bankruptcy. That's another part of it. Yeah. He not only authored and voted for that bill, he split with Barack Obama and led the battle to vote down Democratic amendments. His explanations for carrying water for the credit card industry have changed over time. They have never rung true. Okay, and the simplest explanation is the most likely. He did it for his donors. And at a fundraiser last year, Biden promised his Wall Street donors that, quote, nothing would fundamentally change for them if he became president. I mean, come on. That is corruption. That is why I would vote for Bernie Sanders over Joe Biden. That is why I can't bring myself to vote for somebody like Joe Biden. Those are fundamental differences. Yeah. He is part of the oligarchy directly. He is telling them, don't worry, you guys are going to be okay if I'm president. So how is that not corruption, Bernie? Yeah. How is that not corruption?
Yeah. And once again, he didn't have to say anything. He could have just been silent on this thing. Like Zephyr wrote that, leave it be. Don't say anything. But the fact, and we're going to show what. And here's the thing, fam. This is an ideology. This is money they're taking from. Zephyr didn't even point out the actual corruption in which Joe Biden took place with. The way he took care of his brothers, his sons, what he did in Ukraine, what he did in China. She didn't even point that shit out, which is 10 times more damaging than what she just put out over there. What she did was a fair opinion piece and say, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get away from these type of candidates who take this big donor money. And here's the thing she's also talking about, fam. Whether he's guilty or not, Joe Biden, and you can't convince me any 7 which ways till Tuesday that the man isn't corrupt. But even if you don't think he's corrupt, the perception of him being corrupt is out there, and he is a losing ticket. The perception is that Joe is corrupt. Not only the fact that he admitted it. I told that lawyer he better be gone, and the perception is there.
Mocking it.
It's suicide, fam, to stand behind a guy like Joe Biden. Suicide.
And I don't think he's necessarily standing behind. But he was, kind of defending the sort of, I don't know, like trying to be above it. But this is not something you can be above it, because you didn't make the statement, Bernie. Yeah. Zephyr wrote a very real, accurate op-ed. Now let's look at what Bernie said, because this is why we are feeling the way we're doing.
And a rare apology. Senator Bernie Sanders apologized to former Vice President Joe Biden in an exclusive interview with CBS News. This followed a newspaper op-ed from a Sanders surrogate accusing Biden of having a, quote, corruption problem. Ed O'Keefe is in Des Moines. Ed, with the Iowa caucus is less than 2 weeks away, why this apology?
Well, good morning, Anthony. Remember, the race for president remains a toss-up, so all the candidates are looking for some way to break through. In this op-ed, Zephyr Teachout, a New York liberal and prominent Sanders surrogate, argues that Joe Biden has a corruption problem for taking contributions from wealthy donors. She writes, middle-class Joe has perfected the art of taking big contributions, then representing his corporate donors at the cost of middle and working-class Americans. The op-ed was later circulated by the Sanders campaign. The Biden campaign quickly swung back, and other observers suggested the attacks are part of a pattern for Sanders dating back to his 2016 campaign, when he faced criticism for not stopping supporters from aggressively attacking opponents like Hillary Clinton or, more recently, Elizabeth Warren and Biden. When we caught up with Senator Sanders last night in that exclusive interview, he called on his supporters to play nice.
Joe and I have strong disagreements on a number of issues, and we'll argue those disagreements out. But it is absolutely not my view that Joe is corrupt in any way. And I'm sorry that op-ed appeared to me. I appeal to my supporters, please, engaged in civil discourse. And by the way, we're not the only campaign that does it. Other people do, act that way as well. But I would appeal to everybody. Have a debate on the issues. We can disagree with each other without being disagreeable, without being hateful.
Oh, my fam. Awful.
It's almost like he didn't read the article.
Awful.
Because all that article was civil discourse. Joe Biden's policies, his record. And this is Joe Biden, and he said in any way.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? Joe Biden is the epitome of corruption. The guy has been in power forever, and he has always. There's a video of Bernie Sanders standing on the right side of an issue, and there's always a video of Joe Biden
on the opposite side,
on the wrong side of history. So how are we going to say that Joe Biden is not corrupt in any way?
In any way, he said, too.
And also, I don't care if the centrists are mad that Bernie bros are coming out there and pretty much putting out facts. These are facts. How do we expect the American people to differentiate between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden if we're not talking about why they should vote? That's the point of a primary, is to vet candidates and have them say, oh, I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders because he didn't vote for the crime bill. Initially, he didn't support it. He eventually voted for it begrudgingly, but he didn't vote for the war in Iraq. He didn't call kids super predators.
Yeah.
He didn't want the bankruptcy bill. I mean, you have to separate yourself from these people. We are not going to unify with corruption.
Yeah.
Not now. We did it in 2016 when the blackmail and the use of Donald Trump becoming president was used on us. That didn't happen. And it's not us. A lot of us voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Guess what? It doesn't matter. You have to convince the other half of the country. And if you're going to put another neoliberal politician like Joe Biden, who can't even remember which day it is, against Donald Trump, you are going to lose the election and he will win. And that is precisely why so many of us are so upset, because we want Bernie to win. We want him to be the president of the United States. But with these tactics. Now, I'm going to point out something, Pasta.
Yeah.
This is obviously some sort of Bernie being advised a certain way by his advisors.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we look at the data and what CBS even said, CBS said, oh, this was released by the Bernie Sanders campaign. Yes. Bernie's media team, which is phenomenal, by the way, that's like one of the good things he has going for him, his media team with Brianna Joy Gray and Nina Turner as one of his co-chairs. All of these people are constantly online talking about how Bernie's great. So this was released in the Byrne report that Bernie Sanders, that Zephyr Teachout, a surrogate, wrote an op-ed about Joe Biden and his record. And that was circulated and released via email. Then somebody must have said, oh, Bernie Sanders, you can't say this, or something happened in the communication where we saw that divide. And so what I'm saying is this isn't the first time the campaign has made some sort of error when it comes to strategy, because that happened as well with the Cenk Uygur endorsement, where on one end they were endorsing Cenk and the next day they were like retracting it. We can't do that here.
It keeps happening too, fam. The fact that it makes you look indecisive, it makes you look weak. And a lot of people are jumping on the chat. Oh, and Johnny's on it right now. We got
an update. Let's really quickly show these reactions to the initial Bernie apologizing
Yeah.
to Biden. So let's take a look at that.
Let's do that.
So what do we got? You guys going to read these?
Okay, so let me pull them up. I'll wait for the super chats in 1 second, guys.
I'll start reading this one.
Okay.
Thea Ballerina, if you think I'm going to sit back and shut up on Joe Biden's corrupt record to appease neoliberals as our planet smolders and they use this ammunition to attack us further, fucking laughable. Yesterday I was disappointed. Today I'm angry as fuck. Biden, hashtag Biden is corrupt.
Oh, yeah. The other one right here says Biden is corrupt. Also anti-poor working class. His horrible record speaks a volume. And Sean King, who, once again, I like it better when Sean King bags on Joe Biden than when he praises Adam Schiff. But he put up a little tweet here. This is 90 seconds about Joe Biden. It's probably one of the worst things. He says,
son Hunter.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, Tom Brokaw. Go ahead, buddy.
Who is 38 years old.
Oops.
38 years old, and that's a reference to your son being hired right out of law school by a big company here in Delaware that is in the credit card business, MBNA. He got about $100,000 a year, as I recall. You received $214,000 in campaign contributions from the company and from its employees. At the same time, you were fighting for a bankruptcy bill that MBNA really wanted to get passed through the Senate, making it much tougher for everyone to file bankruptcy. Senator Obama was opposed to the bill. Among other things, you couldn't, in fact, claim that you had a problem because of big medical bills. You voted against an amendment that would call for a warning on predatory lending. You also called for you opposed efforts to strengthen the protection of people in bankruptcy. This has been an issue that you've heard about before. Your son was working for the company at the same time. In retrospect, wasn't it inappropriate for someone like you, in the middle of all this, to have your son collecting money from this big credit card company while you were on the floor protecting its interest?
Absolutely not. My son graduated from Yale Law School. The starting salary in Wall Street is $140,000 a year if he went to lawyer. Options he had. He came home to work for a bank. Surprise, surprise. Number one.
Dude, he just never freaking. Go ahead, fam.
There's no
Ridiculous.
accountability for what his actions are and how corrupt that is.
Oh my God, Roblito.
Yeah, so Robbie Yeager said, remember, right after Hunter Biden was hired at Burisma, this is what we were talking about with the Ukrainian oil company hired David Leiter as a lobbyist. Leiter is a big donor to Nancy Pelosi, and her daughter is one of the largest fundraisers, his largest fundraisers. I wonder why Nancy doesn't want the Bidens to testify. Hashtag Biden is corrupt. And you can read
the
here.
receipt on my birthday, too,
yeah.
by the way.
And then it just kind of goes on to explain David Leiter.
Yeah, I believe Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's son, also April 14th, right over the contribution information receipt date, 2019. That was the same day when everybody was paying attention to war going on, possibly with Turkey and Iran and all that stuff, the bombing. But once again, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's son, also received a contract in the Ukraine for an oil company. It just seems like the hits go on and on. Plain old Johnny Graz. Go ahead, fam.
And this is kind of just a commentary, too, on what happened with the Hillary Clinton thing, because yesterday Bernie was apologizing to Joe Biden. This morning, Hillary Clinton smears him. It doesn't matter how nice Bernie is to these people. They're going to do everything they can to stop him. And John Graziano, one of my favorite people on Twitter, said, "Dear Bernie Sanders, this is what happens when you coddle sociopaths. People are literally dying. Stop apologizing, stop appeasing, do your goddamn job, and win this primary or we're all dead. Sincerely, people who can't wait another 4 years." And so this is, again, it's just people were angry, and rightfully so. And I think Bernie, all I want to say on this is Bernie needs to listen to his base. He needs to listen to the grassroots. He needs to stop listening to a few consultants in his campaign that are ill-advising him to sort of give in to centrist takes that have absolutely zero benefit. There is zero benefit to kind of trying to placate to the centrists. You don't need to apologize to Biden to get their voters. If these people are going to vote blue no matter who, you're not going to get their vote for the primary, but you're going to get it in the general. Like, it's just kind of like this whole thing where it has never helped him one iota to defend these people. And so that advisement that he's getting is entirely wrong. He needs to go after the independents. He needs to go after those other people.
Yeah.
And by doing this, it looks weak. So
it's gonna hurt him, by the way, too, as well.